Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Red Hot Mic. Once again with yours truly, G. Alpha Palmer. And I'm so glad to have you join me once again. I am excited about what we're going to talk about, where we're going to go today. And as usual, we want to ruminate, elevate, and to activate ourselves through this our time together. I would like you, if all possible, I would ask you to like, subscribe to this channel, and to also hit the notification bell so you know when we have new content dropping. Um, what we try to do is to bring a new perspective, a new perspective on some old principles is what we try to do. And some people don't like it, but we've got to do what we've got to do, and that's why we're here at the Red Hot Mic because it's hot, it's warm in here. You feel that? You feel that? Yeah, it's the Red Hot Mic. And I'm so glad that you're here with us. So underneath the page, you'll see all our information scrolling underneath, whether that be our email, our web page, or even our Patreon. Also, what else? We have Twitter and IG. So let's get in touch with each other. With each other. Let's talk to each other. Let's communicate and exchange. Whether we agree on any or everything or not, let's talk. I love to hear from you. And as usual, we want to toast to you, the best of you, the best in you. And we want to toast to ruminating, elevating, and activating. Pomegranate juice, as we always do, is a good antioxidant. So I'll suggest that you check it out. Okay? Well, I'm really appreciative to have this opportunity because um, a lot of times we take things for granted, and we never should, because we never know what life will present us, and so we just take advantage of the opportunities that's presented, and we continue to move forward from there. Well, as we always do on our program, we take time to also recognize what I believe is a pioneer, maybe not a pioneer, but definitely a voice that has, in the last several years, have been real um, uh, important to me, and that's Mr. Kevin Samuels. And what I try to do in our broadcast, I just try to give homage to and recognition to what he has given us before he transitioned. And I'm just saying, it's my way of saying thank you. And what we do is we do our scent of the evening, our candle of the evening. And, some of these candles, I mean, I can't say that they're all candles that I mean, some of them have been sent to me and some have been given to me. This is Tusca Honey by Beatrice. And we're going to give this a shot tonight and see what Tusca Honey is like. I'm not sure, but what I try to do is I try to, with it, what I try to do is I try to um, use them when I'm on live on air, because I think that you know I get to experience it with you, and I can give you an honest opinion as we begin to scent smell it. But along with that, we always have our fragrance of the evening, or our fragrance of the broadcast, and then today is Dolce Gabbana Light Blue Port Home, and it is something that we've used before, and I like it. And it is, and it says that light blue Port Home is a classic cologne that draws its masculine power from a clever combination of round, sweet and round mandarin, tart grapefruit, smooth rosewood, Szechuan pepper, incense, and other ingredients that I can't even pronounce, but I can tell you this: it's a really light and fruity scent. I think it's one of those kinds of things that you could wear to work or out on business, because I think it is something. It's not that it's really sensual as it is just refreshing and clean. So you might want to check it out. Dolce Cabana light blue Port Home, and you can get it out there wherever you go. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna take a little break, and then we're gonna come back, and we're going to start with our program. And I'm hoping that again that you would do me a favor, and that you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification, and we will be right back.
In our current global climate, we're facing challenges never before experienced by this generation. Oppositions where no one seems to have clear directions or answers to the risks facing us. Confrontations like racial and gender unrest, political gerrymandering, toxic leadership, economic crisis, global pandemic, health threats, pre-existing medical conditions, isolation, boredom, and loneliness are driving people to desperation. As a result, people are confused, afraid, anxious, and perplexed, and they need answers to some tough questions and even tougher situations. They are looking into different outlets for answers to gain assurance and consolation. Some have drawn closer to the embrace of family, while others look more towards their friendships, education, and even religion. What we need is a fresh voice of truth and clarity, and not a stale religious echo from the past. There's a re-emerging voice on the horizon that isn't afraid to stand alone and give spiritual and mentally sound direction to a world searching for answers. G. Alfred Palmer offers a voice of sound human development and empowerment to those willing to hear. There's a need for new ideas to old principles, a perspective from a timeless origin, but with current vision, a thought leader who understands what it means to stand alone and speak truth when some are hard of hearing. But if you've been waiting to hear a voice that opens the gates of freedom and breaks the shackles of confusion to allow you to step forward into the dawning of a new and exciting future, then it's time to bridge the gap with Dr. G. Alfred Palmer. He is a dynamic speaker, thought leader, and entrepreneur, equipped to elevate, expand, and extend the development, empowerment, and leadership of his audiences. He stands ready to speak at your next event. His delivery is guaranteed to refresh, entertain, and transform. G. Alfred Palmer bridges the gap from uncertainty to the purpose, to passion, and leadership. Book him today for your next event, and you won't be disappointed.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Glad that you're here with us once again. You know, what I want to talk about, um, I've been talking a lot about um, development, human development, and how um, us, some of us have not developed properly. It's not always our fault because we didn't have the right tutelage coming up, and as a result of that, we're missing some things. And so what I try to do is bring some things um, to help us better understand what it is that could help us. So I want to just share with you and use a tool today um, that may be helpful, hopefully. Um, I'm really a kind of individual that enjoys movies. Always have been, even as a child. I've enjoyed movies. I'm a very serious movie enthusiast. Um, I used to get in trouble a lot as a child because of my so being so engrossed in the programs that I didn't always hear when mom or dad was calling. Got me in a lot of trouble. But that's okay. I learned a lot. Matter of fact, I even got into television at the age of 11, 10, 11. Well, I know I was in the seventh grade, and um, wrote and directed my first movie that was shown in our cafeteria um, during lunch periods. And some of my people that I put in that movie are no longer with us, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to get my foot wet in the motion picture industry. But I've loved it. I probably should have, as a young person, continued with that. But it is what it is. Here I am. And I want to talk about the stages of malehood through a very popular movie. It's called Norbit. Norbit is a movie that I thought was very, very funny when it was first uh, produced and released, I should say, um, back in, I believe, 2007, I believe it was 2007, I think. And yeah, I mean, I think that what we want to do is through using that film, I want to talk about some of the stages of malehood. Notice what I said, malehood. I didn't say manhood, malehood. And I think what we have to understand is that there is a difference between boyhood, malehood, and manhood. And if we can understand those concepts, I think that we'll better understand where people are in the process as we come across them in our lives. And we can better understand and not get upset about certain aspects, but to understand certain aspects and make choices as to those particular personalities and how we want to or not want to continue to be involved with them. So, Norbit. Norbit was a romantic comedy that was released again in 2027 by DreamWorks Pictures, and it was. I mean, some people may not appreciate the humor. I found it kind of humorous, and I found it very enriching in telling and in describing the stages of malehood. The movie starred Eddie Murphy, Thandie Newton, Cuba Gooding Jr., Eddie Griffin, and um, but I mean, I'm not going to go into it because it's just so many people. But we'll probably, as we go on, we'll talk about these particular people, and hopefully you'll go and check the movie out. But we're going to talk about the 12 stages of malehood, not manhood, malehood. And in this, we're going to talk about alpha male. We're going to talk about beta male, zeta male. We're going to talk about the sigma male, the omega male. We're going to talk about. We're going to look at briefly at the delta male, the gamma male, and then there's going to be some that the iota male, and there's going to be a few that we're not going to be able to get into. But we're gonna try to just tag say a little bit about them as well. But we're gonna continue to talk about the kappa, the epsilon, the theta, and the lambda. These are different types of males. It's important that you understand that it's males and not men. Um, Now, not all of the 12 stages are viewed in this movie, but I will be telling you which ones that are, and then we'll talk about how those equate to malehood and how the movie shows us, gives us a synopsis, not in every sense, but gives us a snapshot of what it looks like, that particular uh, stage. Okay. Now, when we look at the movie Norbit, you know, Norbit, played by Eddie Murphy, is a mild mannered um, man, or I should say male, that's always had it rough. I mean, since the days that he was left abandoned by his parents at a combination Chinese restaurant and orphanage. And I mean, when you look at how he was left, you it looks humorous, but at the same token, it's not funny how we have not taken care of our children. But remember, this is a romantic comedy. It's not a serious movie, but we will take the meat and throw away the bones. But at the same token, we don't want to lose a sense of humor, but at the same time, we don't want to lose a sense of sensitivity as well. Um, but in Norbert, he has trouble as a young boy um, because he never received the proper nurturing and development that so many of us have not received. And because of that, we begin to see Norbert, um, and we begin to see how he develops, um, and how, as in his boyhood, he lacks the ability to look out for himself, and because of that, he's bullied. Now, in no shape, form, or fashion do I condone bullying. I never have and never will condone bullying, but it is a reality that young kids face every day. Um, and so Norbert faced that because he never learned how to properly function and learn critical aspects within his boyhood to help him to matriculate into malehood. So he didn't have he didn't have a father figure, even though he did have Mr. Wong. We'll talk about Mr. Wong, who headed up or was the owner of the restaurant, the Chinese restaurant, and the orphanage. But at the same token, he was not a father figure, and we'll talk about that as we go on, as we identify the different roles. So Norbit did not have the proper tools, development to move from boyhood to malehood, and as a result of that, he was thwarted in his growth. But he had a girlfriend who brought to the table a sense of what we call masculine traits. She had a masculine traits and the traits that Norbert lacked from a masculine standpoint. And the reason why Rasputia was her name, had those particular masculine traits is that she was brought up, reared by three brothers. And we're going to talk about those brothers. And from those brothers, Rasputia gleaned masculine traits and was more masculine than Norbert was. And in their relationship, Norbert pretty much used her masculine traded behavior for him to get by. And it continued throughout their childhood. Um, after his love of his life, Kate, was adopted. Um, and I need to say this about Kate. Kate and Norbert were so close that some of the things that they were close in doing, as you'll see in the movie, I thought was inappropriate. But at the same token, they didn't have the proper guidance that's needed, and it goes to show the importance of mentorship and rearing our children, and in allowing them to understand what is proper roles, gender roles, behaviors, mentalities, psychology, right? Cognitions, and things of that nature. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we go on. But it's important for our children to gain and to understand these important aspects and the importance of their parents in developing that from a masculine standpoint and from a feminine standpoint. So it's important. What Rasputia lacked, they both lacked. Rasputia lacked feminine development and Norbit masculine development. Okay, so Norbert and Kate Thomas, who was played by Thandie Newton, they just had a great relationship, but then Kate got adopted, and that's when Norbert was really abused by those around him, and that's when eventually, really, I believe through school, that Norbert and Rasputia, eventually met. Okay, and so through the meeting, and again, she brought to the table that which he lacked. Now, when we start talking about proper development, there's some definitions of terms that we're going to be going over and over again, and I think that are very important when we start looking at the development through boyhood, malehood, and even in manhood. These 8 concepts that we're going to continue to talk about are very critical in development, and they have to be brought into play, both from a masculine and feminine perspective, in order for the child to adequately and appropriately matriculate to the next phase of development, whether that be from boyhood to malehood or from malehood to manhood. So the first term is mental or mentality. Mentality is the mindedness or the mindedness acuity. Now, what do I mean by minded acuity? Mindedness means to understand how to think. How to think. What is proper mode of thinking? Mindfulness, or mindedness, acuity, and connectedness of mind. See, when we have mentality, we have a connectedness of something that's built in us that shows us how to think, how and what is a proper mindset. Okay, a proper mindset is very critical in our development. And so how one's mind is supposed to work becomes very critical in us being able to develop and matriculate. Number 2 is psychological development. Psychological development is basically the logicness or logic, or how we go about from a psychological perspective, how we go about in our minds placing logic and using logic for ourselves, and how we show up in the world and how the world shows up for us, and how we are to move and to operate psychologically in this world. Number 3, physiological. I should say, not physiological. Physiological is going to be later. Philosophical is number 3, and that's the connectedness that we have with our view of the world around us, this philosophical view of all things and how we fit in and how things around us operate from a philosophical, um, holistic manner. How there's a, if there's a balance, and how do we go about seeking the balance from a philosophical perspective. Number four is emotional development. Emotional development is emotional focus, and what it basically is centered on is emotional center. We have to have an emotional balance and an emotional equilibrium on how both genders are to operate and function from an emotional perspective and standpoint. So often we don't have that. We haven't gotten a emotional perspective proper, and it's because of that there needs to be a balance, because masculine emotional development is different than feminine emotional development. I hear people talk about emotional intelligence, but the thing about emotional intelligence is that this perspective that's being taught, it has a more of a feminist kind of tone to it, as opposed to understanding that there is a feminine and a masculine emotional intelligence. Okay, emotional intelligence. And the next number five is um, intellectual development. Our intellectual development is so very, very important. So very, very important. And intellectual development is not necessarily academic. It's being able to understand through thinking, through concentration and contemplation. It's not so much academia as it is, because there's plenty of people who have not have all the accolades academically, but still have great contributions intellectually. So intellectual is the ability of understanding how through thinking, concentration, and contemplation. Very, very important. Now, number six is chronological development. Now, you ever hear someone say, act your age and not your shoe size? That's what chronological development is. It's the proper order and the consistency of age and logical or logical thinking and sequence. So many people, they have a certain age, but they don't think. They don't have the contemplation. They don't have what we were talking about before. They don't have the intellectual capacities that's necessary, because they haven't been developed, right? Okay, so chronological development, then physiological development. Basically, we have is different. It's kind of the flip side of that coin, that same coin of the chronological piece. Chronological is at your age, not your shoe size, but whereas physiological development talks about act, where your age needs to act, you need to act, and your body shape and size should be consistent with your age. Okay, some people have a physical body that looks much more mature than where they are in the other six areas that we just mentioned. Okay, so they are physiologically developed, or there are some that are not physiologically developed. So it depends. Some are underdeveloped, some are overdeveloped, and because of that, some of the lacking in development in the other six areas become more pronounced. Number eight is cognitive development. Is how one thinks, how one learns, or how one knows. It becomes very, very critical, and we're going to talk about in each particular manhood stage. These eight, we're going to give you a brief synopsis of whether these, um, where these particular uh, stages are in these eight areas, very briefly, because we have to stay within the time that we have, and I want to try to keep it as short as possible, and we'll move on into the next phase, next um, another broadcast if we need to. Okay, and I'm sure we will. But anyway, those are the 8 concepts that are very, very critical to development, human development, whether that be masculine or feminine. Now, let's look at the movie and look at some of these uh, stages of manhood. The first one that we want to look at is Norbit. Norbit was played by Eddie Murphy, and his name was Norbit Albert Rice, which is interesting because he didn't know his last name because he was abandoned. And Rice is a play on he was um, he was given to Asians, and it was a Chinese food place. So the last name Rice was given to him. A little comedic play on his last name, but and it's very important to understand that Norbit did not know who he was. He did not have, and there's so many of us like that that don't know who we are because we've lost our genuine name. Names are important. Names are important. Last names are fine, but more important to each and every one of us is 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 our first name. But the thing about Norbit is that when he was a young boy, he was an iota, an iota male. And an iota male basically is one that is looking for identity. He doesn't know. And I would say that that's primarily uh, all of us, but definitely those that don't have a father figure to help direct and mold and make them. And so the iota boy is searching, looking, unsure of where to go and what to do because there's no role models. There's no masculine role models. Okay. So Norbert as Norbert Albert Rice began as so many of us as an iota male, and those are young, those are preteens when we first begin to come into an awareness that we're growing and we're starting to see the change in our bodies and we're starting to see a change in our voice and all those things that go along with that as we move into adolescence. And so Norbit Albert Rice did not have the proper mentoring in order for him to move forward. So it thwarted him. It it shortchanged him from the proper development that he needed. So as a result of that, Norbert, as he matured as a male, became a beta male. Now, a beta male, it's important to understand that a beta male, they're recognized for exceptional kindness and their grounded nature. They're really, really kind, almost too kind, to the point that people take advantage. You know the old saying, some people take kindness for weakness. And it's because of that kindness that Norbert had some weakness. And betas have a tendency to have some weakness because they have they lack the ability to really to say no, um, and to stand up and for themselves because they've never been taught. Betas have a tendency to be shy and reserved, like Norbert was. He was shy and reserved. Um, he valued personal relationships more than anything. That's why he had a relationship with Rasputia, because he valued relationships. He valued his relationship first with Kate, so much so that if you watch the movie, they got married and they had little candy rings. And so he really was always looking for a relationship. Betas thrive in relationships. They thrive in relationships because relationships help make them who they are. Because with beta males, they're missing a piece, just like Norbit was. He was missing masculine pieces to himself. And Rasputia had a tendency to bring to him those pieces that he didn't have. Okay. So it's important that we understand that even though Norbert was kind and he was grounded, he had a grounded nature about himself in that he cared about people. I think that's really, really important. But at the same token, he valued things that other people didn't. He valued relationship over material wealth and career achievements. That was more important to him. That was more important to him. Now, the thing about betas is they make great partners. Notice what I said. They make great partners, not husbands. They're not good husbands. Now, females might think they're the good husbands, but a woman would know that a beta male is not a good husband because of his dependency, his codependency within the relationship. So they make great partners. They make great business partners because they're more followers than they are anything else. They make great parents. They're friendly. They're gentle. They're selfless. But they're also timid. There's a timidity about them. They're unconfident. They lack the confidence that's necessary, especially for a male. In many cases, they lack physical development. They lack the physiological piece. A lot of times they're small frame because they saw the relationships more important than their own development. And as a boy, boys need to understand that there is aspects of a physical development that need to be developed. And that's the physiological piece. But he lacked that. Norbert lacks that. The beta male lacks that. Even though they're reliable. They are reliable people. You can rely on a beta male because they're going to put your needs before themselves. They're team players, so they make good co-workers. They make good partners in business. And they because they're good followers, they're the glue that holds things together. Whether in your business, whether they're or in a relationship, they hold things together because they are going to follow whatever that's been laid out for them. Okay. Emotionally, betas lack masculine emotional support, but in many cases, because they're underdeveloped emotionally, their emotional support will be there, but it will not be consistent. It will not be consistent. They will look more for emotional support than giving emotional support. The next thing about the beta male is they're good at being a right-hand person, a right-hand man, if you would, but not a leader. Because they're not able to make decisions. They're not good at making decisions. And another thing that's very important for a male is to understand the importance of vision. But beta males lack vision. They don't have vision because they're depending on other people to provide vision for them. They'll follow someone that has a vision, and they'll be great partners, co-business owners, co-pastors, but they'll never be adequate leaders. Because to be an adequate leader, you have to have a vision. Betas are poor, they have poor decision-making skills. They lack because they're looking for someone to make the decisions for them. Their masculinity is minimized because they favor feminine and femininity and feminism. They can be viewed more as a feminist than they are a man or a male. What they do is they seek the company. They like the company of being around alpha males. They latch on to them. They become their middleman, and it becomes a part of who they are. It's just doing what and acting as, and they're comfortable with being the middleman. Now, from when we look at the 8 concepts from a mental standpoint, they operate their mental level is a medium. It's more, and I'm going to be explaining them from a high, medium, and low perspective. Mentally, their mentality is medium, and it's medium because they do think, but their thinking is really their mentality is really thwarted, independent. They have a dependent mentality, a codependent mentality. Psychologically, is also medium, and it's medium because they have the ability to think, but they don't think. Psychologically, they don't look to make decisions. They look to have decisions made for them. They psychologically, they're more dependent on others. Like I said before, philosophically, their philosophical view is low. They don't have a real perspective philosophically because that's not something that they look at. That's too broad. That's too much for them to take in and to think about. So their physiological, or I should say, their philosophical development is low because they don't think that that's something that's important for them. Their number 4 is, again, their emotional development is it's high, but it's in the wrong area. In other words, it's high, but it's feminine. Betas have a tendency to be more highly emotional, almost feminine-like in their emotions, and they are quite emotional, and their emotions are they move more by their emotions than they do by their logic. Most males operate and function more from a logical perspective than they do from an emotional perspective, just like most females will move from an emotional perspective more so than from a psychological or from a mental or from a cognitive perspective. So a lot of these betas think like females. They think like females. They don't think like men. So they will debate against their own best interests as males and support female interests to the demise of their own. And they think that putting themselves as a rug to be walked upon is what men are supposed to do, but that's not what we're supposed to do. Emotional balance and having masculine emotional intelligence is very, very critical. Very critical. And the only way that a male can have and be taught emotional intelligence is through a man who understands properly masculine emotional intelligence. Excuse me. So it's important. It's important that he be mentored, taught, discipled by someone who is a man who is already going through emotional intelligence as a male. Okay? It's important. Now, number 5 is intellectual. Intellectually, betas are smart. They can be, for the most part. Intellectual is high, medium to high. depending. In Norbit, we saw Norbit basically ran the business, right? He basically ran the business for the Lattimores, which is the brothers, Respucia's family business, and her brothers. We'll get to that as we move on. But he was the bookkeeper. He did everything. He ran the chores. He did all the computer work. He did everything that was administrative. He ran the business. He was smart, very intelligent. Okay, so from an intellectual standpoint, we can say that Norbit or betas are high, medium to high. Number 6, chronologically low. Did Norbit act his age? No. No, Norbit didn't act his age. Betas normally don't act their age. They act younger than they are, and that's because of the lack of development. So chronologically, they may be 30, but act 25 or 12. Depends. It depends. So their chronological age and their chronological functioning is low. Okay. Physiologically, we talked about physiological development can be low because they don't focus on the importance of physiological development. They don't think that they need to work out. They don't see a need. More important is relationship than building his physical body, learning how the masculine body functions and how to maximize that. Okay? How to maximize that. And then number 8 is the whole idea of cognitive development. It's medium development cognitively because he's caught in that and you know what? It's not even medium. It's low because he doesn't have much male cognitions. He has more feminine cognitions, and those things that's critical to building masculinity. So if we're going to look at the beta male's masculine, it's low. He's underdeveloped. Without question. But they will make good business partners. Good business partners, whether that's VPs, whether that's like in Norbit, he was an administrator. They make good administrators. They work good in any type of business that brings about any type of physical outcomes, like construction. They good in areas of nursing and medical field. Those are some of the areas where you will find betas excelling. They will excel there. So I say now, this is not to put betas down. I'm not putting betas down. I'm saying that beta males are not men, and beta males have not developed because of what has happened in their lives and what has not happened in their lives. Most beta males come from single parent homes. Most comes from single parent homes, and most of those single parent homes are female driven. And then there are some that have 2-parent homes. But if you go into the home and you'll watch what goes on in the home, you'll find out that the home is pretty much ran by a masculine traded female. And the male that is in there as a father figure is a beta. Or an iota. But more than likely is a beta. Okay, so that's the first of the stages. Beta. Now we're going to pick up from this point with our next broadcast. I don't want to give you too much, but I want you to think about, gentlemen, I want to think about manhood as opposed to malehood. understanding that beta males are not men. They are males. And the reason why they're males is because they are underdeveloped in one or more of the 8 areas that I just spoke about. And because of that lack of development, he can't take his proper place in our community, culture, clan. He won't get respect. He won't be he may be a good provider, but he's not going to be a good protector. He's not going to be a good priest. He's not, because those are not things that are built within him. When I say priest, I'm talking about from a philosophical perspective. Okay. So we're going to stop there and we're going to move on to our next broadcast, and we're going to pick up with another aspect from the movie Norbit. I hope you enjoyed it, got something from this particular broadcast, and I'm hoping that you stick with us. Again, would you please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Share this with someone. Share this channel if you would. Share it with other people, and so that they can get to hear what's going on here at the Red Hot Mic. Because what we need to do this year in 2024 is to address masculinity. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to address masculinity. And we're going to share the importance of masculinity and what it's supposed to look like. Well, that's it for this broadcast. And again, I'm hoping you got something out of it. I'm trying to keep everything under an hour, so that it'll be more palatable for you, and I'm hoping that it is. So, till the next time we come together, again, I would like you to look under the ticker tape under the screen. There's all our contact information. All our contact information, from PayPal to Instagram to Patreon to our website to our email addresses. All the information you need to contact us is being ticketed underneath the page. And so please, let's talk. I want to hear from you. This year we're going to do some more in our chat room. And what we're going to have you do is go over to our Instagram page, grab the link for our chat so that you can come in and talk with me through our chat. But until then, we're going to be doing what we're doing right now. I'm hoping that you would join us again. And please understand what we're doing. Ruminate, elevate, and activate. Okay? We want to think about some things. We want to step up, practice, and then we want to activate it in our lives, in our everyday lives. Okay? Understand that that's what we're doing here on the Red Hot Mic. Until the next time we come together, G. Alpha Palmer saying, we'll see you the next time.
Wasting my time with too many reflections. Yeah. And since you've been gone, I've been trying to fix me. And I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm getting there.